Hi, I'm Michelle Olivier, and you're listening to Hey, I Want Your Job, the podcast that looks at amazing jobs and what it takes to get them. Welcome to this week's Hey, I Want Your Job. And this week, I do not want your job, Patrick. I don't. But
I question that sometimes myself.
Right? Heck, I don't want my job most of the time. I'm not going to lie. Patrick Falgoust, what is your job title?
So my job title is I'm a product manager for the M365 or Microsoft 365 application platforms team within the collaboration solutions group inside of the enterprise technology division of Ernst & Young, which is, for those that may not know, is a big giant global accounting firm.
If somebody does not know who Ernst & Young is, I am fascinated to learn what rock it is.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Big Four, you say?
Wait,
what would that be?
Who are those guys? Yeah, they're kind of a big deal if you haven't heard of them.
So I actually understood all of the things that you just said, but most people probably don't.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I get a lot is, what is the difference between a project manager, a product manager, and all of the other permeations of that, right? So PMMs, you guys are lousy with like acronyms.
Yeah, we have a lot of acronyms. So
talk a little bit.
Yeah, I give you maybe a little bit more insight of, my job title. So what do I actually do? Maybe you're wondering. I have a team. Well, I do lots of meetings. I have a team of product managers that report under me, and we're responsible for specific platforms within the Microsoft 365 stack, which obviously includes things like SharePoint Online and Power Platform for all your kind of low code, no code, citizen developer type solutions. Teams, we're using Teams now, Exchange Online. So I'm specifically responsible for SharePoint Online, Power Platform, a diminishing SharePoint on-premise environment, and a few other little things like something called Viva Topics, which is all about knowledge management and using AI to curate knowledge within a large organization, search, and obviously the ability to find things and locate people and expertise and all those sorts of fun things. And we do this for a global, worldwide organization of 350,000 people, supporting many billions worth of dollars worth of business. So that's
one of my favorite things about asking questions like that to a technologist is that when you guys think that you have now answered the question in specific,
now there's so many more questions.
You have failed, right? Yeah. Like utterly failed to put that into layman. So I have recently been working with a client to hire a head of product, and one of the struggles that I had in that process was trying to explain the difference between a product manager, a head of product, and a project manager, implementation specialist, architect. Like there's so much convergence. Like the Venn diagram for those roles is just totally overlapping. And that's before you get into the fact that different organizations use the same words to mean totally different things.
Yeah. So let me try again. We within our group, so we work in the enterprise technology group of EY, which is, so for anybody out there, that's basically our internal IT team, right? So we utilize product management skill sets and techniques to manage an internal platform for EY, which is enabling our consultants who are out there client serving. And I spent many years as a client serving consultant, so we can talk about that. But so we're basically enabling these technologies for an internal audience. Now, in a product management capacity, right? Because I've also worked as a commercial product management person where I have a product that I'm taking to market and I'm looking at the go-to-market strategy and the product roadmap strategy, managing a team of developers, doing all the fun agile sprints and all that kind of stuff, right? So when you think about product management, there are all those skill sets, right, required. And within my team, we actually have multiple work streams that all have product managers that are responsible for delivering certain features within the platform. And we have a little bit of a unique, maybe lean on the product management because in a lot of cases, we're not necessarily the ones that are building the product, right? That's Microsoft. But we're a large, influential. Well, we're a large influential customer, and so we
understatement.
So we get to we actually, I think, are in a very privileged position where we get to actually interact quite a bit with the Microsoft product group, which has their own product management methodologies, and they're using us as input to their roadmaps. And so it becomes this multi-headed sort of like peel the onion type of thing where we have our own internal strategies and roadmaps and things that we're trying to deliver, and then we're working with Microsoft to influence their product roadmaps and strategies. And at the end of the day, like, we hope to have something that is going to our client serving community, which are the people out in the organization that are actually going out, talking with customers and making money, right? That drives all of this. We want something that they're able to use and hopefully have a great user experience at the end of the day. And so there's definitely a mix of because we build some things too, like if Microsoft isn't meeting our needs, then that's where we augment the product through customizations or additional processes, and we use those same kind of product management capabilities. And then sometimes we use our project management, right? So like I would say the difference there, right, is a project is maybe a specific
use
like
case.
Point in time use case. Like, I need somebody to manage we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and I need someone to manage that, right? And whereas a product manager is really kind of looking, they're maybe a step back, a little bit more focused on the long-term roadmap. What does this look like? Sure, the next 3 months, 6 months, but what does this really look like from a 2 to 5 year perspective? And where's the market going? Where's the what are the industry trends, the technology trends, and how do we get ahead of those things to help support our our customers, which are our internal client serving population. And all of that is extremely challenging. So
okay, so I'm going to try to put this in like idiot non-technical person term, and then you can correct my version. Does that sound okay?
Sure, please.
So you have client stakeholder with the problem. They go, oh no, we need to do a thing. Enter project manager who says, oh, what is your problem? What is the thing that you need help with? And they narrow down, requirement capture, figure out kind of what actually needs to happen. They then say, oh, well, we have these tools which we could use to help you. They then go and say, great, we want to use Teams as a solution, or SharePoint, what have you, at which point they would go potentially to a product manager, but probably to an architect and say, oh, wise and all-knowing architect, help us design a solution using this tool for this. The architect says, cool, designs, hoocha, solution. then there are developers that make that happen.
Yeah, and then so take that and multiply it by about 50,000 times every year.
And so the product manager's job is to make sure that the project managers know what their product can do, and that their product is prepared to meet the ongoing 50,000 iterations of needs from the customers. How'd I do?
I think pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that for the most part. I mean,
that was a tough test for me.
Simplified, but
pressure.
Yeah.
Very simplified. Very simplified. But okay. So, all of that having been said, how does one become a product manager? Because interestingly, I've had a lot of people, like, they're hot commodities right now with all of the investment in startups, etc. Most of my clients have had a requirement for either product managers or PMMs.
Yeah.
Which is like product manager meets marketing. So PMM, for people who don't know, is product marketing manager. It's like the hybrid between those two things.
Yeah. And I guess some observation I've seen too is there's different types of product managers, right? There are, so prior to coming to EY, I was a product manager, but I also worked, I had a colleague who I worked with, and we were peers on our team. And so I would have described him maybe as like a technical product manager. And then I was the, product manager. So I was the one doing, meeting with the customers, doing pre-sales, doing go-to-market strategy, working with the marketing teams, working with, kind of the all up sort of like business owner for that particular product. And he was my colleague, coming from a very much like a solution architecture background. And so he and I would agree on the roadmap. He was the one, probably, grooming the backlog more and, working directly with the dev teams to plan out sprints and things like that. And you get kind of within product management, right? You can have different variations of that. You may have some product managers, and you see this a lot with Microsoft, right? Where they'll have product marketing managers, like you said, right? They're really the ones out there like evangelizing and talking about the product to the public. And then you've got, I think they call it principal product or program manager, but they have sort of different variations of product manager within Microsoft as well. And those are the people that are really more, maybe talking with customers, getting their feedback. They're the ones that are going to spend time with me and saying, hey, you work at a large customer. What do you think, right? Doing that market type research. So there are these different variations of product manager. So I guess, getting back to the question, I don't think there's one direct path to becoming a product manager. I kind of faked it till I made it in terms of that. But I think if you are looking at product management as a career path, I would say, just keep in mind that there are all these different variations of product management. And then, a lot of times what it boils down to is, do you have experience in the problem space that the problem is trying to address, or the technology that the product is being built on? Like those can be very good inroads into, kind of making that transition. So, my background, I came from a technical background, so I started out my career as a accidental developer, mostly because I was
along the street and like Java came out. Like, is that?
I was lazy, and I could spend all day, doing things manually, or I could write some code. And so I wrote some code, and that led to opportunities. My education background is industrial engineering, so wasn't exactly like coding and computer science, but early 2000s, that was coding was the way to make more money faster. So That's the route
Not a
I
bad way
went.
to make money now.
Yeah. No,
Fair.
absolutely not. But so I started out as as a developer, and I worked in some product areas. I worked in I worked a lot in consulting. And in the consulting world, that's where I'd say one thing that any product manager should really have a good solid baseline, and just being able to interact with people. So like a lot of product managers maybe come from like a business analyst type of background, where they're maybe really skilled in extracting information from their customers, and kind of understanding what it means, and how they can impact, how they can meet those types of requirements. So those types of skill sets, or at least being able to work with those types of skill sets, are really important. I had the opportunity to work with a lot of user experience people. So graphic designers, and like user research, and all those sorts of
They're all crazy, as far as I can tell.
they're
With
really
much
fun
love.
to work with, though.
Yes.
They are like, I mean, honestly, I've worked with some super, super talented people, and it is a mindset that, like, I don't know how you got from here to here, but I love it. That's the way I look at it. And so, but I think a lot of what I see that's common with product managers is well, I won't even say for other people, but I'll say for me, like, I'm pretty good at a lot of stuff. I won't say like I'm not great at any one particular thing, but I'm pretty good at a lot of things. But I'm really good, I think, at building trust and talking with people, and coming up with solutions that are like win-win type of things. And that's where I think you can kind of build trust from people by doing that. And then you get these opportunities. So
I always think that coming from consulting background is like a great way to get into most of any of the things that are a P, M, P, whatever, like
yeah,
director, all of that. I feel like consulting is just a really good intro, because you have to kind of do all of it. Like, you wind up being a project manager, you wind up being the
yeah,
product manager for your organization. You're all like, you wear so many hats, and it's so fast paced, and it's so on site. I say it's fast paced. I mean, you could be a consultant at CAP, and that would not be fast paced, right? That is the
well,
opposite.
it depends on the project. And I mean, so that's a lot of my background. Is I started I'm in this M365 space, which is a lot of SharePoint. And I started in SharePoint in 2006, and, took that a pretty long way in my career. But, that gave me an opportunity to get involved in the sales process for the consulting company that I worked with at the time. So I got heavily involved in the sales process. Naturally, from that, got involved in the marketing process, and building, helping at least with kind of the marketing plans, and building collateral, and running webinars, and these sort of interactive types of things. And I would essentially, I would eat what I killed, right? So like, I would I'd be the one doing the pre-sales, and then I'd roll on as the solution architect for the project. And at that time, I was running workshops, I was building wireframes, I was building the solution, and then, we would go through the requirements, and I would build the darn thing. So, I was kind of doing it all end to end. And then over time, like, I started to focus more on kind of the higher level, like strategic management, team building kind of aspects of that. And that sort of led me eventually into this product space. So, and it really, for me, like, it kind of came to a point where, okay, I don't want to do consulting engagements anymore. and I want to do product management. So I found an opportunity that allowed me to do that, but it was still within the same kind of like space, like, technology and knowledge space that I was used to, and with people that I knew and that trusted me. So
as I said, all of my clients have been hiring product managers
Yeah.
left, right, center, right? They're hot in the market right now. And so I was having this very interesting conversation with one the other day, and I would love for you to weigh in. You'll be surprised to learn strong opinions, but they did as well.
I had no idea.
And I will also warn you in advance, this is a totally not particularly PC quandary. So,
Okay.
for all the warnings and caveats right before I even start, now you're intrigued.
I was not
it's going to
prepped
be less
beforehand.
exciting than all of that. So we were talking about product managers, and the person I was talking to said, and I thought made a good argument, that right now in the market, especially for SaaS products, there are a lot of young people who are maybe 5 years out of university,
Yep.
who are billing themselves as a product manager. And their argument was a real product manager, a high quality product manager that you actually want driving your product, can't be 4 or 5 years out of university. That they just need to have been around more blocks than that. Because a big part of what a great product manager brings to that role is just having seen some shit fail and having done it so many times that they know what doesn't work, what does work, and you only get that with years of experience. And so their argument was that they didn't want to see anybody that graduated less than 10 years ago, because they're just like, there's just no way.
Sure.
Obviously, from a, discrimination perspective, we did not say thou be this age, but I can their point was persuasive. What is your thought? Can you learn it innately, or do you need to just go around the block a few times?
Yeah. So I'd say I might take a little bit of different perspective on that. Okay. So I think that, so product management, so I guess depending, I don't know who the company was, who the customer was.
Company.
But so I would say if that's your only product manager, I'd probably 100% agree with that. If you're going to say I'm hiring a product manager, right, and I'm going to put all my, all my chips into this this one person, I'd say that's probably, a good strategy. Like I would want somebody that's very senior that I know I can rely on. What I think is probably the better approach is you need to build a product management organization, right? And so, and this kind of like parallels the way that my team currently runs at EY and what I've seen be successful at other organizations, right? So you may have someone who's, let's say, a senior product manager that has multiple, product managers or deputy product managers or whatever you want to call them that report into them. And so they may all be working on individual work streams, but they have a senior product manager, or I've even seen like product management directors or vice president of product or head of product, like you said, right? And so then you start to build a product management culture within that. And then what you can do is you can give that person who's, the 3 to 5 year experience product manager, who I think probably has a good foundation in agile, maybe has some technical skills, maybe has some business skills, and maybe they come from like an MIS background or something like that. And you can give that person, goals and spaces within the product that they can achieve and learn, and then they can get more and more, they can be given more and more complex things to product manage. But if you don't, so I guess it depends on, to me, it depends on the organization and what, how big the scope of that is. So like I said, if it's you're putting your chips in the basket for one product manager, probably go with the more senior candidate. If you're actually building a product management organization, I think there's room for both. I would start with the more senior candidates, right? But then I would layer in these, maybe more junior product managers to give some scalability to your hiring structure. Because you can't have, in no organization can you have all unicorns and rock stars, right? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting because part of what they were arguing in this instance was that there's no such thing, that there is not a way to have a full career as a product manager. That like you can't graduate, go become a junior product manager, grow all in product management, that you needed to go and like be a developer for a while or then go do this other thing and get some different strings to your bow. And that what a product manager does is it brings all of those strings from some of them improbable places together. And that if you haven't done that, then you can't just learn by doing just that job. And I'm with you. I call anytime somebody says it can't be done, I call bullshit, right? Like that's already.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. So I guess here would be my retort would be, well, you're going to learn those things, you're going to learn those hard lessons one way or another. What's the difference if I learn them and you're calling me a developer or a business analyst or whatever, a project manager, versus I learned that lesson and you're calling me a product manager? Like I'm still learning the lesson, right, one way or another. And if I have, so if I can meet the 80 percentile, of your Pareto principle, right? Like I can do 80% of the work, and there's this 20% here where like I've still got some learning to do. Like I'm a product manager. I'm executing, the bulk of what a product manager does, and I'm going to learn some stuff outside of that core product management skill set, and then I'm going to progress in within the product management, career framework, if you will, right? So, and it's fairly, this is a space that, like back in the day, like we didn't know what to call these people, right? They were just sort of the jacks of all trade kind of thing. And now there's more of a formalized like career path for what we call somebody that's good at a bunch of stuff.
And that's, I think, kind of where they were coming from. And I think that there is like an old school mentality that that a product manager is an innately senior.
Yeah. Role. I would worry about any SaaS company that's using an old school mentality.
I would too. I think that is in fact what I said to them. Like, I'm sorry. I think the 90s called and wanted their paradigm back. What was that?
Exactly.
Sorry? Yeah.
Yep.
And so there's been so much talk about the Great Resignation. Yep. And then the market was ridiculous and on fire, and people were just getting everybody was just making it rain, right? Like, how much do they want? $8 billion. Sounds great.
Sold. Sign them up.
Yeah. Like this is no word of a lie. I had this guy who was 3 years out of uni as a developer in Python.
Yeah.
Made him an offer. You want to guess what we went in at?
Oh gosh, I think I might be depressed if you tell me, so I'm not sure.
We went
150 grand.
We went in at 140.
Okay.
He had another offer on the table, so we had to go back at 155.
Yeah. Okay.
And that on top of that, the company pays 100% of employee contribution for benefits for all healthcare. Mm-hmm. They have like uncapped PTO with minimum 20-day utilization. Like, I mean, legit awesome. Ridiculous, right? And
I hope they're really good at Python.
They better be. I placed him, so of course I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
obviously this guy's a genius. I have no idea. I mean, to me, Python might as well be a snake. But at any rate, now we're seeing the backlash, right? So we're seeing all of the, oh wait, we didn't actually have that money. Just kidding. And we're seeing all people losing their jobs, etc. What, as somebody who has been in the tech industry for a while, and so you have seen the bubble burst cycle, what is your thought on where we are and kind of where it's headed?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I wish I had the crystal ball to tell us like the where it's headed part.
You and me both, bro.
But you know, we've experienced, you know, not exactly the same thing, but you know, we've certainly seen that talent and global talent in particular is getting harder and harder to hire in. We see, you know, people getting crazy job offers that we can't possibly compete with, and you know, and that happens. And I guess the way that I always, you know, I always have very candid conversations with people on my team, you know, like if you want more money, like, you know, you might need to change positions. You might need to either go elsewhere within the company, take on a different type of role, or, you know, even go, you know, as much as I hate to lose you, like you might have to leave to get, you know, to get what you want, right? Because, you know, I don't have the ability to create unlimited opportunity, you know, in place where I'm at. I think that, you know, hybrid work has been a big deal, and I think, you know, like I would never consider taking a job where I'm not able to have a hybrid work situation. I've worked at home effectively for many years, even before COVID. Like I've worked at home. You know, so like I think people want the flexibility, and you know, we'll continue to demand that. I think that you know, the hiring has gotten out of hand in certain respects. I think some level of backlash is, you know, probably warranted and required. I think the people that are, you know, like these people. So I jokingly said, oh, I hope he's good at Python, right? Well, the people that took these jobs and took these salaries, right? If they're not on the top of their game, like, you know, in a year, 2 years time, like they may very well find themselves, especially if the market corrects downward, they may very well find themselves, you know, on the cutting room floor, if you will, right? Like, and people, and so, you know, everything's cyclical. I've been fortunate in my career that, you know, you know, economy has never really, like, it's impacted my pay raises or whether I got a pay raise and things like that, but I've never lost a job due to the economy, you know, knock on wood somewhere. But you know, like I think larger, more stable companies are, you know, maybe like a safe haven for some folks. But you know, I also see there's a ton of startups, and there's a booming, like, you know, startup culture, not just in Silicon Valley, but I mean here in Georgia and Austin where you're at, and like all over the place. I mean, you got startups, and I see capital, you know, venture capital is also tightening up. So as that VC money tightens up, you're going to see hiring tighten up as well, and like you'll have less of this free flowing cash to kind of throw at people. But I mean, a good developer is still going to command a hefty salary, and a good product manager is also somebody that's going to be, you know, like you're not going to get somebody that's really, really good, you know, on the cheap, right? And but I see, I do see some of these roles even in the, you know, it used to be that you outsource, like you're, okay, I'm going to outsource my development roles because that's all, you know, that's just doers. Those are tactical people. and I don't subscribe to that belief, but I see in the future like more and more of these product management strategic level roles, or so-called strategic level roles, like probably being outsourced more and more as well. So I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts there, but
there's a lot, but that's great.
yeah.
So, one of the things I wanted to kind of piggyback off from what you said there is you said that made the comment about for some people the big companies are kind of a safe haven, and I think that that's always been true. But I also know from talking to my recruiter friends that work with hyperglobal megacorps that
Mhm.
they are really struggling right now because they're just not nimble enough, and they have a lot of kind of older school mentalities
Yeah.
around how they treat people, like the whole, well, we're going to promote you but not technically promote you until you've proven yourself in the role. That's a
Yeah.
very old school company mentality that most of them still have, and these days we have a whole generation of workers that just calls bullshit, and they're like,
Yeah.
absolutely not, why would I do that?
And honestly, they should. Like I've got no problem with that. I've worked at different companies. This is the biggest company I've ever worked for, and I mean, there's not many companies that are much bigger. So
Right,
like,
it's one of the top 10
so
largest
it's
companies in the
definitely
world.
not a, we're not the poster child for like a normal experience, if you will. Um, I've worked for companies that promote you based on your individual readiness, and then I work for companies where it's more like, okay, we're going to look at the curve, and you stack here, and we can only have so many people in this rating and that sort of stuff. And I think that you will get, in the future, we're going to get more and more pushback against that. So if I'm performing at a X level, like I should be rewarded and compensated at X level. It doesn't matter that, there's 10 people or 100 people on the team, and I could, like I should be a mid-level, or I should be a senior, like, or they'll leave to some place that can give them what they want. And the unfortunate fact is that we see that, you know, like, and it probably will continue to happen. So
I think, the other thing is, as a hiring manager, I'm sure you can identify that I've, talked to a lot of folks who get frustrated that your ability to negotiate at a bigger company
it's
way
nothing.
lower, right?
Not lower, zero.
Right. Like you could absolutely have a member of staff who comes to you and they're like, Patrick, I'm a peace out. Like this place is,
Yeah.
I've got this other offer, and you could be like,
We
no.
can advocate for them. We can try, we can say, hey, this is the business case why this person should, get what they're asking or close to what they're asking. But at the end of the day, they're in a large company, there are ranges, and, there are salary surveys and due diligence that different parts of the organization take on to say, for these roles, the salary ranges for these ranks are this. And, somewhat at my, like, someone at my level, I don't have any control over that, unfortunately. And that's just, so all I can do is advocate for that person, and, say why they are, why they're valuable, why it would cost us more to go to market and hire, or this, that, or the other. But if somebody's got a ridiculously good offer, my advice to them 9 times out of 10 is take it.
So that's so because the bigger the organization, obviously there's more and more problems with like parity and like what one department does,
Sure.
and that's why you guys get your hands tied, right? Like it's not because the company's like, "Mwahaha, we're going to be evil." It's the road to hell has been paved with good intention.
Well, that's exactly right. And, it's like, okay, if I give this person X, then, even if people aren't supposed to talk about their salaries and what, people talk, or there's Glassdoor,
There's an app for that.
there's Fish, exactly. And And so people talk, right? And they go out and say, oh, this person's getting this. And so now I just did something for one person. I've got 10 people on my team. Well, now I've got 9 more people coming to me and say, hey, such and such got this. Like, what, how do I do that? And so I think as a leader, right, that's a bad precedent to set. And it's not a sustainable model, right? There's not infinite funds out there. Like, we have to operate within a budget. And unfortunately, sometimes that means making hard decisions or having to say goodbye to someone that you really value because they've got a better opportunity that's more aligned with what they want to do in their career.
Yeah. For what it's worth, my personal philosophy is never accept a counteroffer and never make a counteroffer.
Yeah.
If they were mad enough to go, let them go.
I subscribe to that probably 90% of the time. I will rarely make a counteroffer for somebody. If they were unhappy enough to be looking externally, there's probably not a whole lot that I can do to make them happy. If the only thing that they're looking for in that role is more money, then they're like.
But I also feel like you're just negotiating with terrorists, right? Like,
yeah,
what
absolutely.
What them is they go out and get anytime they want to raise that we don't have budgetary bandwidth for.
Right.
They just go out and get an offer and come back, and you know what I mean. And I just like down that path lies madness, to my way of thinking.
Yeah, like I said, 9 times out of 10, that's the way I would treat it as well. There have been a few extenuating circumstances in my career, but most of the time.
Hear one of those offline because I can't think of any. I have had people try to make that case to me, and I have still said no. No.
There's really actually only
there's
one
exception to every rule.
There's only one exception I can think of, and it's not podcast appropriate.
There you go. So one of the questions that I get asked by people a lot, and I know what answer I give, but it's ultimately a question for you. So I would like to hear your answer. Is when they're trying to stand out as a job applicant, should they contact the person who is the hiring manager or they suspect is the hiring manager? So they want to get a job as a product person at EY. They're like, haha, I saw that podcast with that Patrick guy. He's the one that I could talk to. Should they all hit you up on LinkedIn, call into your DMs and be like, hey, Patrick, can I have 15 minutes of your time for a quick chat?
The answer to that is no. I please don't do that. And I mean, so like anybody on LinkedIn, right? Like I get hit up all the time. So for the most part, like I am only ever going to recommend someone to any role that I have personal experience with. Like I've worked with you in the past. We've worked on a project together. We have, I know you in some way, right? Because I'm not going to go to bat for someone who like I don't have that personal background with. Because when you recommend someone, you're effectively putting your reputation on the line, saying, I recommend this person. Now, I may make an introduction on someone's behalf, but I'll also usually caveat that by saying, I'm just introducing this person. I don't have any, background with them. I think it depends on, what I would probably recommend is it's better to apply to the role and write a really good cover letter, right? That explains why are you like a good candidate for this role and what about your background? Because I mean, if you get in a situation, you're looking at, even 10 resumes, they all kind of start to look the same after a while. But like if you can in a very maybe 2-paragraph succinct cover letter say, this is why I'm good for this role, Like that to me would stand out more than you nagging me over email or over LinkedIn or texting me or, somehow you got my phone number. Like, honestly, like for me, you're going to go to the bottom of the stack.
Have they gotten your phone number? Now I just have to know. Has that happened? Like,
no, it hasn't. It hasn't.
Stalked
thankfully.
you that thoroughly?
It has not. No.
Wow.
But I do get random people hit me up and like they want an introduction, and I just like, I don't know you. I'm not gonna put myself on the line, for you, right? Like.
Great. So I guess I wasn't really talking about so much of a recommendation as just
as the hiring manager.
Yeah,
I would
the
say
career gurus are always like, go around recruitment, go straight to the hiring manager. They're the decision maker anyway. And I work with clients in whole ranges of size, and some of them are like, do we know this person? What is happening right now?
Apply to the job, submit a really good cover letter, and like stand out that way.
Please stop telling people to submit a great covering letter, because I don't want to read that anyway.
No, well, you don't have to read it. Just forward it on.
You don't get to see it if I don't read it and care.
No, this is true. So I don't know the answer then. Like, but I don't want a bunch of people reaching out to me.
Either way, the takeaway is don't talk to Patrick. He doesn't like people. Leave him alone.
That's not, well, I mean, I like people enough, but just certain people. Like, just certain people. People I know.
So if you don't already know you, it's a hard no.
Well, I mean, it's a balance, I guess, because now thinking back about it, I have, we've raised internal, job postings, and I've had people reach out to me as the hiring manager, to inquire more about the role, and I've entertained those conversations. I think it's a little bit harder as an external candidate because and at a very large company, what's going to happen is they're going to have to go through talent one way or another, right? So if they reach out to me, like I'm just going to have to reroute them back to talent, and I mean, I'm in 6-7 hours of meetings like almost every day. Like it's a matter of time. So like we have recruiting teams to vet those things out, and we need to let them, do their jobs.
Yeah, I think that, I think it is really difficult because I know hiring managers and I've worked with companies where we were struggling, and they would have been like, anybody who can do this job that wants to email me.
Yeah. Yep.
And I will send you to Michelle, and then we can make this happen.
I've probably been that person too. Like, yeah.
And it was like, we literally, because sometimes candidates respond better to hearing from the hiring manager or, whatever. And so I've been down that road more than once, and I totally get it. And yet at the same time, when you're in a situation where you're inundated with applicants, that's the opposite of help. And so what I always say is that I suggest that strategy works much better if you're applying to a small company.
I think that's true.
That don't waste your time doing that with the EYs.
Yeah. And thinking back in my job history, right, where I did work because I worked for like some of the smaller consulting companies I worked for, it's 100, 150 people. And, many times I was the one out on LinkedIn reaching out to people like, hey, do you want to come join my team? Right. Like, and I'm sure that's just as annoying as the opposite. Right. So,
who doesn't want that email? Well, maybe. I even like it when I get that, and people are like, "You seem so great. Don't you want to come be our recruiter for $50,000 a year?" No, you're crazy. But also, I
still have people like reaching out to me. Hey, do you want this developer role? And I'm like, yeah, I haven't written code in 10 years. Like, you really want me to come be your developer on your team? Like, you're crazy.
You're 10 years and $100,000 off the mark, my friend. Bad news all the way around.
So. Yeah, I think it's tricky, but I do suspect that you're right. It's probably more effective for a smaller organization, or if you've got like you're looking at your connections and you say, oh, I've got these people connected, maybe you can get an introduction that way. I mean, I'll be, like LinkedIn is a gold mine. Like every job I've ever gotten has been through LinkedIn or in some way like networking on LinkedIn. So, if you're not building your network and curating your connections and, like if I'm not connected to, if I have a meeting with a team at Microsoft or a team at EY or whatever, like my immediate next action is I go make a connection with them on LinkedIn. And I have over 1,000 connections, probably like, I don't know, 1,300 connections. And like that's your professional network. If you're not mining that for your career opportunities, then, good luck.
My take on LinkedIn, I totally agree with you. But what I always say to people about LinkedIn is that it is the modern equivalent of exchanging business cards. When we are not physically there,
100%.
It's basically.
In fact, don't even give me a business card. I've got a pile of those in a closet somewhere. I do not want any business. I don't even have a business card.
I do. I have pretty ones. They're purple and everything. But that's because my business partner is a graphic designer. And so she was like, and we do go to networking events.
Yeah, so you have to have the business card.
Yeah.
But I'm not taking one.
All right. Fine.
Put a QR code to your LinkedIn profile on your business card, and I'll scan it, connect, and throw the business card away.
Yeah. But yes, I completely and totally agree. And in fact, somebody was showing me the other day, my friend Scarlett, that there's a way that you can just have the LinkedIn QR code like on your phone at a networking event, and you just like hold up your phone and they scan it right there, done. I was like, oh, well, shit. Now I wish I didn't have business cards and I just walked around flashing my phone at people. That seems
that's all you got to do,
right?
Exactly.
I didn't have any desire to kill these trees anyway. So believe it or not, we are actually almost out of time. What have we not talked about that we should have definitely talked about?
Well, I love like your questions are like honestly really kind of got me thinking, and I hope that I did an adequate job of answering them.
More than adequate.
I think that, I think that anybody that is looking for a career in product management, I'd say it is, it's a very interesting space. You're going to see a lot of different things, and definitely encourage, there's, all different backgrounds are welcome, needed, and should, would highly encourage people to pursue it. I guess shameless plug. So you and I are connected through more than just the podcast, because I actually know your husband and that guy, and have had the opportunity to work with him in a couple of different companies. Great technology guy, also in a product management career. So shameless plug. But Giles and I have a new podcast that we're creating. We've put our first episode. Was it in the can? Is that the lingo?
I think so, yeah.
And but we're doing a podcast called Enterprise Influencers, and the concept behind the podcast is how do people like you and me, kind of like regular everyday, we're not the CEO, we're not the boss, we're not the leaders of the overall organization, but we're in there influencing the technology decisions, the business decisions, the direction of an organization. So how within that company do these enterprise organizations, how do you influence an organization of size? And we're going to be talking with a bunch of different people about a bunch of different topics. So, how do how do you lead from within? How do you maintain, networks? How do you, basically, how do you get shit done is really the gist of it. So keep a lookout for that. We're going to be on all the things in the social medias and interwebs and all that. But yeah, that's pretty much,
So I
can't think of anything else.
That's okay. I have one last question because I ask everybody. How do you respond when somebody asks you how much you make?
In terms of career, like if I'm doing
You, Patrick, if somebody says, is gauche enough to say, how much do you make, Patrick? How do you respond to that?
Not enough.
My husband's response is always, I do all right.
I do all right. That's a good one too.
Fair enough. Well,
Yep.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. We'll have links to you that people should not use because you don't want people DMing you in the show notes. And
if you've got something interesting to talk about, feel free to reach out. Like I'm not an ogre. Like I like people. Don't treat me that way. Jeez.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you. This was fun.
You've been listening to Hey, I Want Your Job. For more information on how you can get your own awesome job, visit ONH Consulting at www.onhconsulting.com. We offer incredible resumes, no-nonsense career advice, and real-world tips for landing a job in today's market. Check us out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Insta for more insider information. Soon, you'll be hearing us say, I'm Michelle Olivier, and hey, I want your job.